Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people. We have 2 for 1 today. Both of those joins us on the phone. Donny Osmond, how are you?
I'm good, Alex. How are you?
I'm delicious, but I know you've been a little bit under the weather. Are you sure you're all right to talk to me? I'm sort of piling on.
You know, that's a terrible thing for a singer to get a cold. It's like a basketball player or a soccer player breaking his ankle. You know, it's one of the same. It's kind of difficult to sing with a cold.
How do you manage to do it then? I mean, there's a point where you're good enough to do the show and there's a point where you know you can't get through it. How do you make that call?
Well, it's a very difficult call to make because you certainly upset quite a few people when you have to cancel a show. I did last night. I had to cancel last night's show. And I've got a lot of people who don't like me very much this morning.
Yeah. Well, it breaks your heart because you know you're letting them down. People flying to Vegas to see you. You've been doing this show, I think, 7 or 8 years now. I saw it opening week and you were sensational then. I saw you Friday night and you're still sensational. And I think that's a testament to your talent. To be able to turn that out 5-6 times a week, 8 years later, is really inspired. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, Alex. That's one of the things that we try to do in the show is constantly change it because we're getting so much repeat business. And we don't want people to see the same show over and over again. So, and plus with new albums coming out, things like that, you want to incorporate those new materials into the show.
Yeah.
So you got to constantly change it.
You were just in England before Christmas and you had this new album out which did so well, and in this show we get to see your life story, which is incredible. I wonder what it's like for you. I sat there, Debbie was just to the left of me, your wife of 37 years who you clearly adore and vice versa. What a magnificent life it's been. Do you pinch yourself? Because not many people get a career like this, do they?
Well, yeah, I do pinch myself, but then again, Alex, you have to understand it's taken a lot of work to not just to get a career, but to sustain a career. And I think a lot of artists these days, they don't quite get it. They don't quite understand the work ethic that it takes to keep a career going. Like I said, I was saying the other day, there's some people that said, how have you had such a long career? And I said, it's a 4-letter word. And they looked at me kind of suspiciously, said, what 4-letter word is that? I said, it's called work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work
Yeah.
to keep reinventing yourself and keep coming up with new stuff. You know, you got to look back and say, no, I've worked really hard for that one. I've really worked hard for that one. And so forth.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, Vegas is a proper job, and these showrooms, you fill them and you do well. But I mean, it's a packed show. You have some of the most complicated dance routines I've seen on the Strip. You have to sing. It's all live. There's a lot of pressure on you, isn't there? Do you start that show excited or in fear?
Oh, no, it's every show is slightly different because every audience is different. I don't know if fear is the right word. Maybe a little anxiety. You just don't know what's going to happen, and you can be as tired as you can possibly be. But as soon as the lights go on, as soon as the curtain comes up, and you hear the crowd and the band and the sound and everything, it's that magic of show business, Alex, that just really gets to you. And that's what's so luring about this business, is that even the audience feels that electricity.
Yeah.
And it's a great feeling, but it takes a lot of work to get up there on stage and make it look easy, because that's what you want. You want people to say to themselves, "Oh, I could do that." They're just having a great time on stage.
Yeah, and the show is so slinky. It's so nicely produced. The lighting's magnificent. And then, of course, there's another 50% of the show we haven't mentioned yet, which is your sister, Marie, who, again, has this remarkable operatic voice at times. And I love that because it surprises the audience, doesn't it?
Well, here again, you got to surprise people. You know, you got to give them more than what they bargained for, so they do come back.
Yeah.
And so, as you saw Friday, we give them everything, the spectrum. That's called variety, and you got to give them so much stuff when you're putting on a variety show.
I don't know what I know. I've been reviewing theatre for 20 years, but honestly, I've never seen anybody look more at home on stage than yourself, and that's unsurprising. When we see your career, I did the last UK interview with a man called Andy Williams, and I think it's fair to say without Andy, your life could have been very different.
Very different, because Andy gave me my debut when I was 5 years old, and I do that little tribute, as you saw,
Yeah.
sing Moon River, and I show the footage of my very first performance. And it's kind of a touching moment, I'm sure, for the audience, but it certainly is for me, because it really does take me back to that moment when my life was defined at 5 years old. That's that debut performance.
Do you ever remember not being famous, Donny?
You know, that's a great question. No, I don't. I don't know what it's like just to be a normal person to walk down the street and just be be autonomous.
There's a strain that comes with that, and there's a pressure and a responsibility. I asked this of many of the legends I've spoke to over the years. I wonder whether there's been times, because we're going to get to those in a bit, there have been very difficult times in your life, personally and professionally. Has there ever been a moment where you seriously wished that you were just working in a store somewhere and could be Mr. Anonymous?
I don't think so. It kind of breaks me up here a little bit because I kind of enjoy what I do.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun because every once in a while, for instance, I went to China and I walked down the street and nobody knew who I was. And for a split second, I thought, I kind of miss it. Because, it's nice to have a normal life. And I do have a normal life when I come back home to Utah. I get out and I mow the lawn and I go to the grocery store, fill up the car with gas, with petrol, and do the normal things, take out the rubbish, all of that stuff to keep me on a normal kill.
Yeah.
But when I'm an entertainer, I love the celebrity.
Yeah. And it's been an extraordinary life. When we last spoke, we spoke about that fear of walking on stage. I wonder at this point whether it's totally exciting, daunting, or whether you ever fear you could go back to that point, because there is a responsibility with walking out in front of 1,000 people in Las Vegas. I mean, you've got to deliver, especially like today. When are you going to feel 100% again? It's a strain.
Well, I'm trying to get to be 100% here in the next 6 hours, because I have a show in about 6 or 7 hours. And so, but at some point in time, Alex, you have to say, I'm only human.
Yeah.
I can only do what I can do. And that's what the audience has to expect as well. But there are a lot of people who just love to complain when you miss a show.
Yeah.
But there's only so much you can do. If you can't sing, then you can't go on stage.
Exactly. I want to talk to you about life and your feelings about it at this point. As far as I'm concerned, you seem to have beat the business. You've got your own path now. You've done everything you need to do. I think, is it something like 137 albums or 60, something like that, isn't it?
It's 60 albums. This is my 60th album.
I mean, remarkable.
Yeah, it is remarkable, and I'm grateful for it too. But when you think that I was recording for 3 different entities, the Osmond brothers, Donny and Marie, and myself. So I had 3 different recording careers going on at the same time. And somebody told me the other day during an interview, they said, Donny, do you realize you, as an artist, tied the Beatles in the amount of gold records that earned in 1 year?
Wow.
5 albums.
And it's legacy as well. It's the fact that you're a household name. We don't even need your second name at this point. But it's interesting, your professional success, to me, is not as remarkable as your private success. I think the fact that you've been married so long and still achieve happiness. I looked to your wife on Friday night, and there she was in such awe and admiration and clearly so in love with you still after all these years. How do you achieve that? It seems to me these days people get married, 6 months later they get divorced. You're really the opposite of that.
Well, first of all, thank you. I married right, married up, as they say. We try to keep success, at least in the show business world, in perspective, and realize it is a temporary thing. One of these days, the curtain's going to come down permanently, and it'll be on my watch. But I want to do that. But I'll always be a husband, I'll always be a father, I'll always be a grandfather. Those things are the most important things in your life that give you stability. And I mean, before Michael Jackson passed away, he would call me every once in a while, and first thing he'd always say is, tell me about your family. And so no matter what kind of success you attain in life, and it's great to attain that success because it's self-fulfilling, and it really makes you feel good about yourself. But if you don't have your foundation there isn't any success that can compensate for failure in your home. And so I do spend a lot of time. For instance, last night I was just sick as a dog. But my son was giving a performance in a cappella at his high school. It was his final performance. I was not going to miss that. And after the performance, I mean, it made it all worth it. I walked up to him, and he looked at me with the biggest smile on his face and said, Dad, I know you don't feel good, but I really appreciate you being here. Those are the moments that really matter in life. Yes, a standing ovation at the end of a show. Yes, that magic of show business and being on stage and the lights and the adoration. But those moments when when your boy says, "Dad, I know you don't feel good, but thank you so much for being here."
Yeah.
That's the most important thing.
And again, for all the standing ovations, they're not going to bring you a bucket at 3 o'clock in the morning, are they, Donny?
No, not at all.
There's about 300 questions I've got from that last answer. The first is that you say that it will be taken away one day. I wonder whether at this point you really believe that. There's nothing to take away. I mean, you've made it. You're here. You'll be here as long as you want to be. Your audience will follow you. Do you still think there is a possibility it could be taken away? Because that to me seems insane.
No, not taken away. It'll come down, like I said, on my watch when I want it to come down. I never want to get kicked out of the business. I don't think that's going to happen because, yes, I have survived it, and I've really enjoyed the ride, and I don't plan on getting out of the business anytime too soon. But, you know, logic tells you there's going to be a time you want to shut it down a little bit. And that day will come eventually, but not anytime too soon.
And then the wife, Debbie, there sat admiring you, loving you, supporting you through all the good, the bad, the indifferent. And I wonder now whether you've worked out how you've made that work. Is it one of compromise? Is it one of just alchemy, finding the right person? Have you analysed why you're still together after all these years and so many people aren't?
Well, I don't want to oversimplify something that gets very complicated. But there is some simple tricks to it. I don't know if tricks is the right word, simple facts. And that is you have to be in love with each other. You got to find somebody you're just in love with. What happens over time is that love can kind of fade if you don't try to keep it ignited over time. I constantly date my wife. I mean, I'm constantly taking her out to dinner and buy her flowers and things like that as if I'm still courting her.
Yeah.
And it just keeps the relationship alive. And you have to respect each other too. You know, sometimes, actually, 100% of the time, when you're arguing, you're just arguing because you want to be right.
Right.
And we have a little saying in our home: if my wife and I argue and I know I'm wrong, I'm man enough to admit that I'm wrong. But if I know that I'm right, I'm man enough to admit that I'm wrong.
That's brilliant. And then when you look at her these days, do you still feel like you're the luckiest man on earth and that in fact you're lucky to have her and not the other way around?
Most definitely. And one thing you've got to be careful of, because there's a lot of fish out in that sea, is that when you get married, you are dedicated to that person. I mean, there's a lot of women out there that I could have married, but I chose Debbie Glenn, and I'm glad I did. She's a wonderful woman for me.
What gives you more joy at this point when you look back? Having children or having grandchildren? There's a different type of love and fun, isn't there?
Oh, it's totally different. You know, sometimes as a parent, you wish you would have started out with grandchildren and then had the children. But then again, your children would have been really spoiled.
What's your Christmas like? Give us numbers. So we've got how many direct children, then how many partners, then how many grandchildren?
Well, let's see. It just in my immediate family, with my wife and I have 5 boys, 3 of which are married. Our 8th grandbaby is in the oven, as they say.
Wow.
So Christmas can get a little crazy at times. It is a true miracle, and it's a wonderful feeling to know that that's your little grandbaby. And it, like you said, it's completely different than your children.
Yeah.
Although there is a thread of continuity of love there. It's your child's child.
Yeah.
But it's just, when I had my first grandbaby, I thought, I'm too young to be a grandpa. To be called a grandpa at my age, I just don't get it. And
you know you're not right. You know you are old enough now to be a granddad. You do get that, Donny?
I do get it now. Yes, I do.
Life is cruel.
A couple of gray hairs, and I thought, yeah, you are a grandpa.
There you go. How's that going, by the way? Do we dye the hair, or is that natural at this point?
Oh, I'm kind of natural as much as possible, but I try to keep it as brown as I can on my sideburns.
Are you one of these guys who wakes up one day and looks in the mirror and thinks, I'm looking at my granddad? Has that point sort of arrived yet, or are you still seeing yourself as an 18-year-old?
I still see myself as a teenager. In fact, I act like a teenager. My wife tells me all the time, please act your age.
And I love that spirit. We get to see that on stage. And I wonder how you've sort of come to terms with religion and spirituality. I've always felt your performance is sort of a religious experience. There's something about the unity of your audience. Is religion something that's a big part of your life every day and certainly on stage? Because you've always been wholesome and it's never been fake. You've always been authentic with that.
Well, first of all, thanks for the compliment. I don't put my religion on stage. I don't try to preach. You know, being a Mormon, I really enjoy what the theology of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I love the way it respects deity. I love the whole concept of family, eternal families that it teaches. But I really respect other religions as well, and that's why I don't bring my religion on stage. If you get a religious experience, then that's up to you, because I'm not a hypocrite. I will not do something on stage that I won't do off stage.
Right.
And that's the way it'll always be.
Does it ever disappoint you, the mockery that your church gets? Because, I mean, there's a musical on Broadway that is probably one of the most offensive pieces of art, albeit hysterical, but it is offensive. I mean, they go to the absolute extreme. Does it sadden you that it's sort of become a laughing stock?
Not really, because I thought it was really interesting that even the church advertises in the playbill.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. And
I love that.
It certainly has brought a lot of people into the true understanding of our faith.
Yeah.
That it is truly a Christian church and not a cult. So, you know, what's the saying? Criticism is the best form of flattery. What's that saying?
Yeah, well, parody certainly is, isn't it? You're nothing until...
Parody, yeah. And so I don't mind it, because it really heightens the notoriety of our faith, and so people have a little bit of intrigue, and they investigate a little bit more, and they realize, wow, it isn't what I thought it was.
It's amazing when we look over your career at what's changed in the world, and it has. I mean, you've seen greatness, you've seen technology, you've seen 9/11, you've come through all of this stuff. What's your take on the world at the minute? Do you think we're in a good place, or are you disappointed by the world, or do you just get on with it?
I think we're in a transitional stage, you know, of tolerance. I think we have to be very tolerant with one another, especially with religion and different ideologies.
There's not much sign of that, really, is there, going on at the moment? It feels like we're all at odds.
Not a lot, especially within these transitions of communication. Communication is going to just advance even further, and it has ever since the beginning of the advent of the internet. But I do believe that there's got to be much more tolerance and love and kindness and respect for other people's beliefs.
It always saddens me, and you see it in this country as much as you do in England, that people spend so much time and energy hating when they could be loving and just getting on with it. It seems like it's become a cult that people seem to love to hate.
When you give somebody a computer, they become such a critic. You know, they can hide behind that little keyboard and just shoot at people some horrible vernaculars. Yeah. And you know, I don't believe in that. I think, you know, don't criticize unless you know something better, and unless you can do something better.
I don't think there'll ever be another generation of your star. When I look at how you grew up and who you grew up with, in this final segment, let's just talk about, you mentioned Michael earlier. I think he admired you, you know. When I look back now, it seems to me I think he would have liked your life. I just saw the MJ1 show the other day here in Las Vegas. I think it's one of the most beautiful shows in the world. I'm such a big fan, as I know you are, and you pay tribute to him in your show. It's utterly devastating that it went the way it did.
Well, I have a little insight on that because I have such a great relationship with Mike, and as I mentioned earlier, he would always call me and talk about family. He didn't have that strong family that I grew up with, and Mike and I were going to do a single together. Do you remember the song, the Stevie Wonder song, I Wish Those Days Could Come Back with Both? It's a great song.
Yeah.
I cut the track, and I went over to Mike's house and I played it for him, and he said, oh, we got to do this together. This is going to be huge. And because the lyrics were so appropriate for both of our lives. And we're all excited, and then things just took a downturn for Mike, and he called me up and said, Donny, we're going to have to postpone this until all this blows over. I said, no problem. until it's the right time, and that time never came. In fact, I played the track for Stevie.
Wow.
And Stevie said, "Oh, this is going to be huge." And he said, "You got to get close to Mike because he's falling. He's falling fast." And I said, "I'm doing my best."
You know, in your career, there's been so many stories like this. I interviewed Amy Winehouse many years ago. Michael was another one. What is it with people who are so ridiculously talented not being able to cope with it? It's tragic, isn't it, that you're blessed with so much and then have so little?
It's not the talent, Alex. That's not what kills people. It's what I refer to as the yes people.
Right.
It's all these people around you that just keep building you up and building you up. And there's a little saying that I also use: the air is rare up there. And when you get to that height of notoriety, you start believing your own height. And you start looking in the mirror thinking that you're invincible and rules don't apply to you. No, rules apply to everybody. And if you want a good relationship with your spouse, there are rules that apply, consequences for making mistakes. If you want to be a good dad, there are rules on how to raise children, and unless you want the consequences of rebellious children. There are rules to abide by. Nobody is above the law.
Who's the person in your life who's had to pull you down a peg or two at times? Is it Debbie? Is it your wife?
Oh, I think it happens naturally. Yeah, my wife is definitely a barometer for me, but my faith definitely is a huge barometer for me. It keeps everything in perspective. But you have to constantly keep pulling in those reins, because as you saw at the show, you get a standing ovation at the end of the show. Well, guess what? You got another one 24 hours later,
right?
And you got to start over.
And now you got a cold. Yeah. I always remember an interview with Larry King talking to Luciano Pavarotti, and he said, "What pressure is on you to sound like you before you go on stage?" And I guess we need Donny to sound like Donny. Donny with a cold that sounds like Marie ain't going to work, is it?
That's not going to work. Well, I've got some work to do here in the next 6 hours.
What's your legacy, Donny? What is the thing that you would love people to say? When I look at your career, it's phenomenal. TV host, yes, we can check that box. You did that magnificently. Of course, recording artist, solo, brilliant. The Osmonds, fantastic. Musical theatre star, you did it masterfully. What do you want people to remember about you as the best thing that you did as well as you possibly could?
I appreciated every bit of success that I achieved, and I was able to recreate myself many, many times, reinvent myself. But most of all, I was a really good husband and a good father and a good grandfather. That's what I want to be known for, because a lot of the times, especially nowadays, you can buy your way to success. It's not long-lasting, but you can't buy your way to success as a successful father or husband.
Is there anything more magical than on Christmas morning turning up downstairs and seeing those 300 people who are all part of your family and your life and your friends?
Oh, there's nothing better. Nothing better. Nothing better.
Do you realize how much you're loved? Do you think about it, or do you just get on with it? I mean, there are few people in the world I've interviewed who are more popular than you. Your fans don't just love you, they adore you, they follow you, they travel for you. It's an exceptional rapport you've built with your audience. Do you think about that, or do you try and leave it because it would drive you slightly mad?
No, I appreciate it very much, especially with Facebook and Twitter. I'm on it all the time. Can you imagine what I could have done with that back in the puppy love days?
Right. Oh. I'm telling you.
But I give back to my fans because they're so loyal.
Yeah. I
have fans that have been with me for 50 years, and I appreciate them very much. Yes, they do travel all over the place to come to the shows and buy the albums and things like that. But I do give back as well. Yeah. And you have to have that reciprocity with your fans and that two-way communication. Because there's an experience that I had on an airplane one time. This gentleman, who will go nameless, is an entertainer, very popular. And this little kid, 10-year-old boy, was so excited. He was sitting back in coach. We were up in first class, and he walked up, and the celebrity was kind of dozing off, and the little boy tapped him on the shoulder, and before the boy could say anything, the celebrity pulls out a pre-signed card, and his signature's on one side, and on the other side it says, I don't bother you, so please don't bother me.
Oh, wow.
To the kid. And I thought, that guy's not going to have a long-lasting career, and he didn't.
Yeah, sad. I mean, I look at your trajectory. I mean, there's the Justin Bieber, which is probably equivalent to your fame when you were in the day. You're a very different type of people, of course. Will there ever be anybody with your longevity, though? The business isn't set up for that now, is it? It's make your money quick, become a star, and then fizzle out.
Yeah, it's quite transitional, isn't it? I do think Taylor Swift is going to be here for a long, long time. I think Michael Bublé is definitely going to last a long, long time. So there are exceptions to the rules of today, basically because Michael's music is timeless.
Yeah.
And I think Taylor is a little more generational than Michael. But longevity is something that's very difficult to attain anymore because music is so disposable.
Yeah.
Nobody really buys albums anymore. They just want the single, they download it, and then, okay, I'm done with that. What's the next one? What's the flavor of the moment?
Yeah.
And you can't really build a long career on that.
I could count on one hand the amount of guests in my career who entertain me as much as you as a radio guest. You're a fantastic person to talk to, and I thank you for such a wonderful interview again. Good luck with the show. Donny Marie is on at the Flamingo in Las Vegas for another 8 years. How long are you here for now?
Who knows? We were supposed to be there for 6 weeks back in 2008. And, we lovingly refer to this show as the show that won't die. It just keeps going.
And nor should it. The audience were on their feet at the end. They love you. I wish you all the best and another 37 happy years with Debbie. Congratulations on all your success privately and professionally. Top man. Great to talk to you, Donny Osmond.